So we were talking about the types actually. Can anyone tell me what is difference between approval and approval chain?
Major difference is optional column basically.
Yeah. For approval chain, it will not have any optional.
Right.
No, not optional. This one. This one will not have.
Sorry, all, yeah.
Yeah. This option will not have. And optional is nothing but where you should be seeing this for every business process step. If you don't want this step to be mandate in execution, you can actually keep that as an optional. Even this is not completed, you'll be able to see the next step business process will look at next step. The major difference I can say approval and approval chain is approval, you can actually have anyone in the security group to actually select. But chain of approval chain is nothing but chain of approvers where you need to have all the members who are part of the security group should take an action, and you can add multiple security groups so that people from different security groups should be able to take an action, should be able to approve this one. Okay, so approval chain is nothing but chain of approvers, but whereas approval is nothing but where you can actually have individual member who can actually approve it. So let's say if HR administrator is there, 5 members are there. Since you need to have an approval, at least one person in that security group takes an action, you should be able to see this step will be completing and move for next step actually. Okay, that's the difference between approval and approval chain. So mostly in all the business process that you actually configure, action and approval, these are the two major step type that you'll be using. The rest of all, it's not that the rest of all others are not used, but mostly around 85 to 90% of business process configuration you'll be making will be based on these two, action and approval. Okay. And rest of all these things, case to case actually. It depends upon the need, you'll be actually creating this. But a regular business process configuration, around 85 to 90% of business process configuration will involve just an action and approval.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How many approvals are needed to have an approval chain?
There is no limit actually. Okay. So approval chain.
Minimum. No, my question is the minimum to call it a chain versus just approval.
Okay. So it depends upon the security you configure actually. So chain, approval chain, the meaning of approval chain is chain of approvers. So if you have any, let's say you're actually hiring some senior position in executive board, okay, that requires an approval. Okay, that requires an approval, and to approve senior level position, there might be a specific security group will be creating. So right from CEO of the company to president, vice president, who are part of that executive board should approve that one. Okay, it depends upon the requirement. Okay, so how approval chain, what kind of approval it is, you will be creating a specific security group. People who are part of that security group will be, the approving as part of the approval chain process, and everyone in that approval chain process will be doing that one. It can be more than one. Okay, that I can say, and there is no limit that this many approvers only will be part of approval chain. Okay, so based on that, we will be creating a security group, and who are part of that security group will be approving this one as part of chain process.
Thank you.
If that makes sense. Was that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So rest of all other things, case to case, you will be actually looking at. And we'll try to understand the definition or the purpose of each of the step type. Okay. Coming to the batch job. Okay, so batch job is nothing but a kind of scheduled process. Okay, anything that gets scheduled in Workday, that process is called batch process actually. Okay, so any batch process that you wanted to run as part of the business process, you configure that batch job, okay, here, and let your business process run that one instead of manually running or scheduling as per the business process requirement. If you have any of batch process should trigger from the business process, you can actually select this one. And this is rarely, I have not seen any kind of typical use case that came in any of the implementation that I've done or any kind of support activity that I've done. But the purpose you need to know is any of the scheduled job that needs to be triggered as part of the business process. Workday has given a kind of flexibility that you can actually add into the business process and then configure that. Okay. That's a kind of scheduled process. Okay. Next comes a checklist. Checklist is nothing but a kind of to-do activities. Okay. To-do list that you wanted to make. Okay. So when you select type called checklist, you should be seeing option to create new checklist or any of the existing checklists that we have actually. Okay. So if I take any of the existing checklist, new hire checklist. Okay. Checklist is nothing but list of activities to do actually. Okay. So as part of the checklist, okay, you can see send welcome announcement. Okay. Who has to send? HR administrator has to send. Okay, read and sign the policies. Okay, which is one of the step that we'll be taking as part of to do actually. Obtain badge means obtain ID card. Okay, is something a different team has to take. Okay, assign employee office, assign employee location. Okay, so in this way you can actually assign a kind of checklist, prepare a checklist as per the business process, as per the business requirement. If you're going for hiring, you can actually consider any of the process that organization follows and include them as a kind of checklist and add them to the business process. And if you're terminating an employee, okay, what are the checklists that employee has to perform before their last working day? Okay, submit laptop or submit badge. Okay, submit any kind of dues that needs to be paid for organization, and any of the medical bills needs to clear the medical bills, any of the reimbursement, clear the reimbursement. These are all kind of checklists that we can plan based on the requirement. Okay. If employees get terminated. So we can add the checklist as per the requirement of the business process. And when a business process execute, based on this checklist, your task will be completing one by one actually. Okay. So that's a kind of typical checklist, the step type you have where you can actually configure the process for each of the transaction that we have in Workday. We can actually define the checklist actually. Okay. That's about the checklist. And questionnaires. Okay. Questionnaires is nothing but, where you can actually frame some questions actually. Okay. So you have a task called create questionnaire. Okay. Have a task called create questions. So this is the task. Within this task, you'll have create questions actually. And this is the task that your business process will understand. Okay, questionnaire kind of thing. So create questionnaire is a task. Okay. So whatever the previous question that we have seen, right, we'll be creating a question. something like, not exactly how it has to be, something like, you can actually frame questions like this, and those questions will be added to the questionnaire. And this questionnaire, you can actually add to the business process. Okay, so that these questions will be, whoever needs to be answered these questions will be populated in the business process. If I click on this, I have missed the order. So once I click on OK, system will ask you to configure questionnaire that you've created actually. Okay. Generally, if you are sending questions to employees, you can actually configure employee security group. Okay. If you're framing questions to any specific group, you can actually have that specific group configured here. Whatever security that you're getting here, these are coming from the business process security policy, actually. Okay. We discussed it, right? Anyone who needs to take an action, who needs to perform a business process transaction, that has to come from the business process security policy. Okay. I'm just trying to find anything relevant we have. Okay, so I've configured HR administrator as a kind of security group just for showing you the option. Okay. So once you submit this, system will ask you configure questionnaire. Now we have selected step type should be questionnaire, but where are the questions is what it asks. Okay, so configure questionnaire, select this one and add the questionnaire that we have created. Okay, whatever we have created, you can actually add this. So you should be finding whatever question that we have created from the list actually. Okay. The same way what we have created, right? It is the same process. Okay. So the questions, whatever we have created, it is the same process. But I think this is not taking any new questions in this tenant, but generally the same way. Okay. Whatever we've created questions can be called here and you can actually configure that question. Then your business process when execute, when your business process starts running, it will be looking at the questions and display those questions or populate those questions to the security group that you have configured actually. Okay. So now if you see the business process that we have configured, the step type is a kind of questionnaire. You have HR administrator. Now when this executes, whatever questions that are configured here will be triggered to the HR administrator and HR administrator will be actioning on those questions. So that's how your questionnaire step will be triggering actually. Okay. So based on the need of the business, you'll be configuring. I've given a kind of random question, but based on your need, you can actually configure the questions that you might have. That's on the questionnaire. Okay. Anyone have any questions? Any questions on questionnaire or checklist, whatever we discussed? Anything unclear?
A quick question, Namit. For the checklist, so let's say there are like 3 or 4 items in there, right? So are they informational or are they tasks?
So you mean to say, as part of the checklist, can there be a
Yes.
task or can there be anything specific that we can have outside of task is what your question is?
No, so basically, let me kind of give a quick example. So you have a checklist and there are 4 items in there, right? Do this, do that, whatever. So is that a task, meaning collect some documents, step 1,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
is that a task, meaning I have
No, that
to
is
go
not a
and
task.
somebody needs to check mark that I have collected documents, which is step 1? Or is it more informational? I get an email. I'm just trying to visualize
Yeah.
where and how would I use checklist?
The collect documents is not a kind of task that we have in Workday actually. Okay. So you're
I'm just
configuring.
giving an example. I'm making up stuff.
Yeah. So that's what, we don't have any of, those tasks. Okay. So we can configure a task. Okay. We can configure anything, outside. I was showing you right now, right? When we actually configure a checklist. Okay. Any of the specific checklist as per the need, generate documents or sign the documents. These are not typical steps actually. Okay. But we have an option like if you see this checklist, okay, these are all to-do tasks. Okay, so you can actually add them as a kind of tasks, and these will be executing. So first, you need to create a to-do task, and then add those things. These are not Workday standard things. Okay, these are not Workday standard things. We will need to add a to-do task, and then call those to-do tasks into the checklist. Actually, okay. So if you access this one, this is not something Workday provides. Okay, we will be creating this one. Okay, we'll be creating a to-do task and then manage as part of the checklist, add those to-do tasks into Workday. You have a task called create to-dos actually. Okay, so through that to-dos you'll be creating these things. Send welcome announcement is a kind of to-do task that you'll be making, and you'll be adding this to the checklist actually. Okay, so used by the checklist. Okay, you'll be adding this to the checklist, and from there you will be making the complete list of all the checklist that has to undergo as part of the business process execution. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So checklist and to-do are similar actually, but you will be calling to-dos into the checklist because which within checklist, we can't edit or we can't do any kind of text kind of additions. We cannot make. But to-dos we can actually create to-dos and call those to-dos into checklist, and that's how business process will be making a decision to actually when it executes, go for a list of all the checklist items and execute as part of the business process. Okay, that's a kind of checklist, and then complete questionnaire. Okay, so is what we have seen. So if there are any set of questions that needs to be shared to all the new hires as part of the onboarding or as part of the new hire process, you can actually frame those questions as part of the question. Consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain are similar to approval and approval chain. Okay. Consolidated approval, you can see all. When I change to consolidated approval chain, you will not see. So it is similar to consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain. But what is the difference? Then if it is similar, why do we have two? This might be a question. Okay. So consolidated approval in the sense management chain actually. Okay. So if there is anything that needs to be triggered to specific set of people. Okay. Specific set of people, or let's say if you're hiring a key member into the organization. Okay. Key member into the organization, there needs to be a kind of specific set of approvers who needs to action on that hiring approval actually. Okay. So for such kind of cases, you'll be creating a kind of management chain security group. Okay. So manager has to approve, then senior manager has to approve, then director has to approve, then senior director has to approve, then vice president has to approve, then vice president, senior vice president has to approve, then executive board member has to approve, then CTO has to approve, then chairman of the company has to approve. So we have consolidated all the approvals consolidated into one security group, and then have those approval from the consolidated approval. Okay. So consolidated approval is nothing but approvers from the management chain. Okay. So who will be taking care of the approval part, consolidating into one security group, and that security group will be taking care of consolidated approval. Okay. Getting approval from a consolidated security group is nothing but consolidated approval. Okay. So for such kind of needs, you'll be confident consolidated approval chain. It is similar to approval only in terms of behavior, but as part of the purpose of this consolidated approval chain, you might have different set of people in the management chain who needs to take an action actually. Okay. So there is nothing but consolidated approval chain. Anyone in that management chain, okay, so who is part of that particular security group needs to take an action. Okay. So whereas consolidated sorry, I was talking completely on consolidated approval, not consolidated approval chain. Consolidated approval takes all the management level people and get you a kind of consolidated approval. But whereas consolidated chain approval, okay, so you can configure multiple security group, multiple management chain security group, and everyone who are part of that management chain security group has to take an action. Okay, has to take approval, has to approve, then only your business process will be moving further actually. Okay. But for consolidated approval, you have a flexibility that there is no need. Okay. There is no need that everyone who is part of the security group has to approve. But whereas consolidated approval chain has to have everyone to approve that one. So that's the difference. It is similar to approval and approval chain, but only the difference is you'll have specific security group called management chain. Okay, a chain security group will have, so all the management level people will be part of that security group, and that will be taking care of consolidated approval. Okay, one person as part of the consolidated approval will be approving to move further. Approval chain in the sense chain of approvers who are part of the management chain security group needs to take an action, meaning that multiple approvers has to be action on this one consolidated approval chain, because there is no option for skipping others when one person has taken action. Okay, so it's similar to approval and approval chain, but only the thing is in approval chain we can have specific security groups, but whereas any security groups, but whereas consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain needs to have a specific security group called management chain actually. Okay. So list of people in the management chain, they need to take care of consolidated approval chain, both consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain. That's what consolidated approval talks about. Okay. Anyone have any confusion in understanding between consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain and approval chain? Anyone have any difficulties in understanding? Chain of approvals will be including in the management level. So that goes based on management chain. Okay. And whereas the regular approval, whoever you wanted to have, that business decides, that security group will be taking care of the approval part actually. Okay. Again, consolidated approval and consolidated approval chain will be based on the requirement. Okay. Case to case, based on the specific need, you will be adding this one. But whereas an approval for every business process, there needs to be an approval process. So you'll be configuring an approval for every business process. Whereas an approval chain, specific requirement you might have, for only those cases you'll be configuring approval chain actually. Consolidated approval chain and approval chain. Okay. That's what you can actually differentiate between approval and consolidated approval. Now coming to the other step called additional data, edit additional data. Okay. Any scenario, if you hear anything called additional data in Workday, which means that it's a custom data. Okay. Additional data in the sense in Workday, it is a custom data. Okay. Whichever Workday has not provided, you will be configuring as a kind of custom field in Workday, and that custom field will be named as a kind of additional data. Okay. If you go to any employee profile, in Workday, you say if I go for Jacqueline's profile, personal, okay, in personal, or there should be overview. Okay. So you can see additional data here, right? Whatever the fields information that you're seeing here, all these are custom data. These are not something in a Workday as provided. Okay. All these are custom fields configured in this tenant. Okay. So these are all custom fields. Okay. So anytime if you hear a term called additional data, think that there is a custom data actually. Okay. So if you wanted to have that custom data to be edited, okay, edit additional data as part of the business process. Okay. As part of the business process, if you wanted to have additional data to be edited, we'll be configuring that as part of the business process. Okay. Any business process requirement has to edit any specific custom data, you'll be configuring that as part of the business process and have it executed further actually. That's what edit additional data talks about. Okay. Integration. Okay. This is a little bit technical actually. Whenever you wanted to have integration to be triggered by the business process, you will be configuring that integration to the business process, and whenever that business process transaction happened, that will be triggering the integration actually. Okay. I'll give you one example that I've seen. Not sure whether you'll be able to get this. Let me take an easy thing that I've done. Okay. So there is a background check activity, background check integration related thing was there. So generally background check, if you think, this background check is one of the business process step type in the job application business process that happens in the recruiting actually. Okay. When a candidate gets shortlisted, okay, an offer will be released, and post offer reference check and background check steps will be triggering, and based on that, hire will be triggered for an employee. Okay. So now, when a candidate is moved to background check as part of the business process, that will be triggering one of the integration that is configured as part of the step, and then integration will run based on the business process execution and will be sending candidate data to that background check vendor, who will be performing a kind of background check, and then based on the successful completion of the background check, candidate will be turned into employee through job application business process. Now, so it's considering specific type that we are concerned here. When I configure integration here, it will ask you what is the integration that you wanted to attach. Okay. Same like questionnaire, it will ask you what is the integration that you wanted to run as part of the business process. It will ask. You can actually pick any of the integration that you wanted to have to be triggered by the business process. Let's say configure integration is the integration. Okay. Some random integration that is there with the worker name I'm taking, some configuring as part of the business process step. Okay. Now, if I click on OK, your integration is configured to the business process. And whenever your business process is running, it will trigger the business process. It will trigger the integration called worker. You can see this is the integration actually. Okay. So as part of the business process, initiation will happen and approval will happen. Once approval is completed, HR will be getting one more notification to configure these questions, and then it will move for configure worker, a kind of integration actually. This does not need to run by specific person actually. It automatically triggers. So based on the user that you give actually. Okay, integration is this one. If it needs to be run by specific user, let's say Jacqueline. Jacqueline is a whenever business process step triggers the integration step, it will be running by Jacqueline in the background. And based on that, your output will be returned accordingly. Okay. Based on that, your output will be returned accordingly. So you can actually add integrations, reports to the business process, and business process will take care of running the integration and generating a reports actually. So it will reduce manual efforts actually. Okay. So that too, there needs to be a need actually. You cannot configure every business process, every integration to the business process. No, you cannot do that. Okay. So only specific kind of step related things. Let's say background check is there. Okay. Background check, you have built an integration that sends employee data to or candidate data to background check vendor. Okay. But when this integration has to trigger, so dynamically or statically, this has to trigger. So as part of the business process, when candidate has completed the recruiting stage, the background checks needs to be performed. You'll be attaching this thing, and this will trigger to the background check vendor who will be performing background check and validate the background check results actually. Another example that I can say, okay, so one of the recent thing that I've done, expense related thing. Okay, so whenever employee submits employee expense request to a manager will be approving this one. Okay, manager will be approving, and once manager approves, an expense letter has to generate for an employee through integration. Okay, so this happens as part of the business process event. Okay, there is a business process called expense event. If you configure any integration, okay, that generates letter for an employee, you will be attaching that integration to the business process, and when business process triggers, integration will run automatically and generates a expense letter for an employee. Okay, so such kind of things you can actually configure an integration, and integration will take care of running as part of the business process. Okay, so any of the technical integration that you'll be developing that has to run as part of the business process, you'll configure as how I've done. Okay, any questions on the integration? Okay, anything unclear on the integration part, configuring integration to the business process? Anything that you did not follow?
Could you run through it quickly once again, please?
Okay. So basically, the term integration means integrating data from one system to other system. Okay. So kind of a technical job that will run integrates the data from one system to other system. Okay. Now, when it needs to send data from other system, there needs to be a trigger actually, whether you're running it manually or it runs through automated process when you schedule that one. Okay, so which will trigger based on that data will be integrated to other system. Now you want this kind of integrations to run as part of the business process. Okay, dynamically as part of the business process, you want this integration trigger. The moment candidate is moved to background check, your integration should trigger actually. I told you, right? In Workday, we have a recruiting module. In recruiting, there is a business process called job application, which will be consisting of steps like interview, assessment, reference check, background check, offer, ready to hire. These are all the business process steps. Okay. When a candidate has moved, okay, has cleared the interview, then candidate has moved to background check step. Okay. So when candidate has moved to background check step, system will automatically trigger the integration based on the configuration that I've shown you. System will trigger the integration and that will send candidate data to background check vendor and then background check perform. Here, the key thing that is happening here is you're attaching integration to the business process. And the moment business process step triggers, it will run the integration and data will be integrated to the vendor actually. So that's how you use your integrations in the business process. Did that make clear understanding?
Yes, thank you.
So such kind of things you can actually configure as part of the business process so that the results will be dynamic actually. Okay. That's on the integration. Similarly, reports also will be there. Okay, what the report in Workday means not only in Workday, any system, report is nothing but which returns the data from the system. Okay, integration is nothing but which sends the data from one system to other system. Whereas a report in the sense it will return the data that is sitting in system actually. Okay. So if you wanted to have those reports to be run automatically by the business process, as how I've shown you the integration part, similarly, you'll have reports also attached to the business process step. Okay. I'm giving step E, order as an E, and type as report. Okay. And then if you click on OK, it will ask you which report that you wanted to have. You can select that particular report. And the report will be running as part of the business process. Okay. As how I explained the integration, same way your report will be executed. There is another option called report group actually. Okay. Report group in the sense, report is one report which will be returning the data, but a report group in the sense, collection of multiple reports is a report group actually. Okay. 10 reports that are there is collected into one report group, which will be consisting of report groups. And when you run a report group, those 10 reports will run and return the data. Okay. So report and report groups can be configured as part of the business process, and business process will take care of running those reports. Okay. Running those reports and returning the output of those reports. Okay. That's how you have seen workers. You should be seeing reports also here. Okay. You should be seeing reports also and reports and report groups actually. That's what this talks about. Okay. Any confusion on reports and report groups adding to the business process? Anything not clear? Anyone have any questions on that?
I have a question. When you're doing your group versus your report, is the report the same report for different people? And then in the group, are you doing something different other than the one report for different people versus several reports for different people?
Okay. So first, report is a single report and report group is nothing but mixture of multiple reports. Okay. Now, if you have any requirement, okay, that all active employees is one of the report which will be returning only active employees. Okay. Which will run and return active employees. Now, you wanted to have this report to be executed by the business process, which sends results actually, which returns the data as part of the business process. Okay. So you will be configuring a security group. Okay. Let's take, okay, report. Okay, I'll configure a report. First, I'll configure a report and then Who has to get this report output? I'm giving all HRs has to get this. Okay. Okay, there needs to be a security group here. So whatever security groups that is configured here, when this business process step completes, right? A notification here, we can see here on the top. Okay, a notification will be sent to that person with the output file actually. Okay, a report runs as part of the business process, and report output will be shared to the notifications of that person who is part of the security group, so that that person will be reviewing the report results. Now, since there is one report that will be sending one output file, and that person can actually take a look. But what if you actually configure a report group? Okay, report group in the sense is nothing but multiple reports. Okay, multiple reports running and sending multiple output files to the person who is in the security group actually. Okay, so for the first the report you can take as all active employees. Okay, so as part of the business process, HR has to get active employees. Okay, so business process will run that and send this active employee data to that HR administrator. But if you configure report group, okay, report group consists of active employee data, terminated employee data, and just an example I'm saying. So how you can have multiple reports. Okay, you can have active employee data, you can have terminated employee data, you can have all contingent workers data, you can have all the employees who went on long-term leave data. Okay, so these are all 4 reports I have. Okay, leave data, contingent workers data, active data, and terminated data. Okay, these are all the 4 reports that I have configured in the report group, and report group is attached to the business process. Now, when business process executes, it will run the report groups. When report group triggers, it will run the 4 reports that we have attached and send these 4 output files to the HR. Okay, so that HR can view all active employee data, all terminated employee data, contingent worker, leavers data. So in a single step, they can actually view multiple report output files.
Excellent. Thank you.
Amit, one quick question is like, I'm not able to understand like where we are attaching like that these 4 groups
Report?
should be.
Okay, so report group, there is a task actually. You can create report group. There is a task. So where it will ask you to configure multiple reports into that. Okay. So in this task, you'll be creating a report group. Just for testing. So once you create a report group, it will ask you to attach multiple reports like this. Okay. You can have multiple reports. You can add one by one. Click on this, add the report name, and if you wanted to have any report filters, you can add those report filters and create a report group. Like this, you can add multiple rows, and you can give multiple report names, which will become report group actually. So once you have this report group created, you'll attach this report group to the business process, and business process will run the report group, which will trigger all the reports that you've added here.
Okay, this is for the report group, and if we are selecting only single report, in that case also the similar process we have to like which type of report we are looking for, like we are looking for leave report or we are for the
no. So you just give the report name. That's it. Let's say if I go for just one report instead of report group, I'm going for just one report. Okay. Whatever report that you wanted to attach, you can attach that one. Okay. So now I've added just a report. Click on OK. Any security group. Okay. So you can actually have any report, if there is a need for only active employees, okay, if that active employee report is not there in the system, you can create that report and attach that report here. Okay, if you need to attach any terminated report here, okay, so terminated data report is not there in the Workday system, you can attach the term report here, and that will take care of adding the report. Okay. So the report is, we have one big concept called reporting. So once we are done with all the functional things, we'll be getting into reports. So you'll be getting a kind of understanding to create report, how to create reports and all.
And I'm just trying to understand, to specify that particular report, we
So these
need
are
to
all
have
report
the
forms.
report somewhere, right?
No.
Present
So,
somewhere.
so whatever worker allocation that I've taken, it is one of the report actually.
Yeah, but it
Okay.
must be created somewhere earlier, right? That
You need to create. Yeah, that's what. Report has to be there in the system. Okay.
yeah.
Then only you
Okay.
can call that system. That's
Mhm.
how I've created report groups. So you need to create a report, or you can actually, if you wanted to have any of the delivered reports that Workday has provided, you can actually take that report also. Okay. But report has to be there in the system. Without that, you cannot attach that.
And is it possible, like from the report group, we can only pull up only some specific report?
Is it possible to pull only specific reports from this report group?
Report group.
As per your requirement, you can actually configure report groups. Okay, report group. The meaning of the report group is it will handle multiple reports. Actually, you can add multiple reports, and when you run a report groups, it automatically triggers all the reports. Okay, if you have 10 reports, okay, 10 reports you wanted to run in one go. Okay, in that sense, you can actually add all those 10 reports to the report group and run the report group, which will trigger all the 10 reports. You will get 10 output files simultaneously. Okay. So if you wanted to attach that to the business process, you can add any reports that you got. There is no specification that only these reports can be attached to the report group. No, we can add any of the report that you create and attach to the report group. Report groups, in the sense, it consists of multiple reports. Okay, so you need to have those multiple reports before you create a report group. Then there is no need of, if you don't have multiple reports, then you cannot create a report group. No.
Right. I was just trying to understand, like, are we creating inside the report group itself, or we are just like calling them and then adding them?
No. So there is a separate task, create a report, custom report. There is a task. You can create reports through the task and have those multiple reports added to the report groups. And you can actually run a report group to trigger multiple output files in one go. So basically, business process configuration is completely a functional task, actually. Okay. Functional team members will be configuring the business process. Okay. And integration is completely a kind of technical skill set where a developer, Workday developer, will be developing the integration. Okay. So once, if you have any kind of specifications that business process should hold any integration. So basically, when I've done, I was the integration developer, and I've configured the business process, called that integration into business process, and configured that. But now I think that things have changed. Okay, so functional team will be configuring the business process. Once the integration developer has developed the integration, functional team will be configuring the business process and call that integration to the business process. Okay, they'll complete the setup of the integration into the business process and have it triggered by the business process. Okay, so integration developer will be developing the integration, and functional team member will be calling that integration to the business process. That can happen. Or if the same integration developer who has developed the integration is aware of configuring the business process, that person can also take care of configuring the business process by attaching the integration to the BP. BP in the sense business process.
Perfect. So there is a dedicated role for integration.
Yeah, integration is a demanded role in Workday. Okay, person who will be developing integrations, integrating data from one system to other system, is a specific skill set. Even in our course also, we have integration concept. We'll be learning how to create integrations. Our last two concepts that we have are related to integrations. We'll be learning how integrations can be created. So that's what report groups talks about. Okay, I think with that, I think we should be good. We've covered all the important step types that we typically configure. Okay, and service. Okay, service in the sense, basically that is related to integrations actually. Okay, these are all something related to integrations. Okay, if you wanted to send the data to any system, okay, service will give you option to deliver, document delivery in the sense send file to other system, document retrieval in the sense get file from other system. Okay, so document retrieval and document delivery steps are integration related kind of steps that you can configure to deliver. Once you develop any integration, if you configure a business process step type called service to that, it will allow you to select these two options. If you have a requirement to send the data to other system, you'll be selecting document delivery. If you wanted to get the data from other system into Workday, you will be selecting document retrieval. Okay, so these are the two traditional steps that we have, and the rest of the things are recently added types actually. Okay, so recently added steps types. Create case. Okay, create case is nothing but which allows to create a case with Workday. So this requires some additional module called Workday Help. Okay, there is a module called Workday Help, which is like ServiceNow, Zira, Zendesk kind of ticketing tools are there, right? Similarly, we have a module called Workday Help actually. Okay, which is something which manages all the support related tickets through support. So Workday Help will actually act as a kind of ticketing application. If you wanted to raise any case automatically, so you have a business process step type that will take care of raising any kind of Workday Help case actually. And rest of all other things are related to integrations where you can actually configure these to send the data and to get the data from other application. Okay. So these things you can automate through business process rather than manual action of sending the data, uploading files into Excel system. You can actually automate that through business process. You can do schedule also. So when we go to the integration, you'll get more conceptual understanding of the integration behavior. But as part of the business process, if integration has to run or trigger the file, they can actually go to the service action. Service will take care of allow you to configure document delivery and document retrieval steps. So those are the step types that you need to know. At least you need to know the purpose and the meaning of each of the step type that you have, so that you can actually configure when you get any kind of requirement. Okay, but as I said, mostly the regular things that you'll be doing as part of the business process step is action and approval. These are the two things that you'll be configuring mostly in the business process. Okay, that's what step types talk about. So we have two types of integrations. One type of integration, within that integration, you have an option to configure this document delivery and document retrieval. Okay, but the second type of integration is called custom integrations. These are out of the box integrations. Okay, this does not have standard options to select document delivery or document retrieval. Okay, so for those kind of integrations, you'll be configuring the business process, and then within that business process, you'll be selecting a service, and then you'll be selecting a type called document delivery. And once you select a document delivery, system will ask you where you wanted to send this document. Okay, to which system you wanted to send document. Okay, so either it is SFTP or Amazon, storage system, or there are certain standard delivery steps that you have. So once you send a document delivery, it will ask you to configure all those document delivery details. Based on that, file will be document from Workday will be sent to other system.
Okay, perfect.
So for second set of
services.
So what is that?
So these are pre-built services where you can give in the parameters.
Yeah.
Perfect.
These are pre-built, but we'll be getting the delivery details from the external system. Let's say you want to send data to other systems, other vendors storage system. Okay, so that vendor has to give you their system details so that you'll configure those system details in the integration, and integration will be sending data to that particular system.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we'll be learning more about integrations in our integration concept. Okay, though we'll not be testing any deliveries, but we'll try to get more understanding the behavior of the integration, how they can be configured or not. We'll be learning more in the integration concept. But for now, take a kind of understanding that business process have an option to trigger the integration automatically rather than manual run of the integration or schedule run of the integration. Business process also can take care of the integration running automatically when business process executes. Okay. So I spoke a lot today. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll in the notes that I'll be sending by end of this week. Okay, whatever I spoke, the types, each of the steps that which I've described, right? I'll be giving you a kind of explanation for each step type that you can take as a reference. Okay, so that will give you a kind of understanding, or come back and refer that if you're not clear on any of the step type. But these two are the most, approval and action are the mostly used step types. Okay, so in tomorrow will be, I think we have covered almost all the conceptual information. Tomorrow we'll recap all those things and we'll be getting into the activity, see how what all the things we have learned will be helpful in performing the activity. Okay, if I am the hiring manager, okay, so what I will look based on the requirement that I have, or general skills that are required for Workday is few very functional skills like core HR fundamentals. Okay, Workday HCM fundamentals, which we have covered and we are covering now. HCM organization jobs, positions, hiring, and business process configuration are part of HCM fundamentals. Okay, so very basic thing, I'll be looking at these skills so that person who have this skill set will understand how employee flow will be there in Workday system. Okay, how employee transactions are getting executed in Workday system. Okay, if there is any kind of support request that comes as part of the ticket, that person will be able to at least investigate and resolve the ticket. Okay, so these are the two essential skill set that I see in Workday. And then very basic things in technical areas, reporting and integration. Not a kind of super complex reporting knowledge or super complex integration knowledge is needed. Okay, at least a person should understand when there is a request, I wanted to have all active employee data in Workday. Okay, at least this basic report requests a person should understand and get me a report which is already existing, or if something is not not there in the system, that person should be able to create this simple report and get me the data. And similarly, integration, basic integration setup. Okay, so loading employee data into Workday. If there is a personal information change for 10 employees that HR or someone has requested. Okay, so a person should understand how to update a personal information rather than manually correcting each employee record. Automate that 10 records to update through integration with all the personal information required. At least these kind of basic things, that are required for any kind of Workday analyst or configurator or a developer, so that they'll be having a kind of unique skill set that is required in the market. Okay, if you're just focused on functional, okay, there are less chances. Okay, you should be good actually if you have complete functional knowledge, and if you're not aware of any technical things, that's fine, but you'll see less openings in those areas. Okay, just with functional skills, you'll be seeing less openings which are specifically for functional things. But if you have end-to-end skills that covers functional as well as technical, which covers major skills, HCM fundamentals, security, business process, reporting, integrations, these are demanded skills. Okay, we have other technical skills also, but those are not required actually. Okay, these are minimum required in the current Workday market. You have, and you should be able to get into this at least with minimum technical skills actually. So that's what current Workday market is looking. We did not look at the course content, so we will be covering both technical as well as functional actually. Okay.
Yep.
So we'll be covering reports, types of reports, creating reports, and getting the integrations. But those are, report I think you should be able to get. But there is another topic called calculations within the report. Okay, so that part is a little, if you have any kind of previous background in technical areas, it should be simple for you to take that. Outside of that, you need
what
more
was the term you
practice to
used,
actually
Amit?
get.
What did
You need more practice to get some understanding on the calculation. But yeah, so I think I'll be able to keep you in a comfortable zone to understand those things actually. So don't worry on that. Even if you don't have any kind of technical expertise, the way that we cover reporting, the way that we cover integrations will give you a kind of confidence that you can actually handle those report creations and integration creations.